it work? And it'll say live streaming has started if it has, and then I'll run an intro, and then I'll let cue you to introduce yourself while I post links.
Okay.
And it looks like it's working this time.
Oh, cool.
Excellent. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It should be. Yep, it's working. Excellent. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. Brian McKinley cannot join me tonight. He's engaged with other matters, but I do have a guest to join us, James Chambers. We're going to talk about a new book he's got up on Kickstarter. At the end of the video, I will put a link in the description so you guys can support it. But while I post links to this on Facebook, James, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, thank you, Kevin. I am James Chambers. I'm a writer, editor, all sorts of literary stuff. I'm a Bram Stoker Award and Scribe Award winner. I have written short story collections such as A Bright and Beautiful Eternal World, On the Night Border, and On the Hierophant Road. I've written comics and graphic novels such as Kolchak the Night Stalker, and I've edited a number of anthologies, including Under Twin Suns, Where the Silent Ones Watch, and most recently the forthcoming Abandoned Asylum, which also includes about 50 or so photographs I've taken of an actual abandoned asylum over about the past 3 decades.
Very cool. And posting on the one place there's like three places I have to post this, so I'm not quite
Yeah,
done
take
yet.
your time, post away.
Yeah, of
I can
course,
keep,
I have
I
to
can keep
also prove
talking
that
if
I'm
you want.
actually a human being.
You can find out more about me at jameschambersonline.com, and I'm easy to find on social media.
Yeah, and I will put a link to jameschambers.com in the description as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's jameschambersonline.com.
Oh, online.com.
Yeah, I I tried to get jameschambers.com back in the day when you could still get your name as a .com, and I was already taken. I was surprised, but this is going back quite a ways.
Yeah, that is a little surprising.
Yeah, I haven't checked lately to see if it's become available, but I should do that. I should check and see if I can get my name now.
This doing find all the photos of a bus thing, trying
Oh,
to verify.
that is so much fun.
Yes.
Yes. Verify you are human.
I love the meme I saw a while back of Buddha sitting in the lotus position, and somebody asks him, Buddha, how do we know if we are human? And Buddha says, find all the pictures of a fire hydrant.
That's great. I've seen one where it's a robot using a computer and it gets to that stage and then the robot just cries.
That makes me think of the thing I want. Is usually after like the fifth or sixth time, it's making me try again. I'm like, can I just choose the yes, I am a robot? Just let me post.
Uh,
I'm sure I can get AI or something to translate it into binary if that'll help.
yeah, that's a
But
scary
okay,
thought.
there we go. Now everything is up where it should be.
All right. Very
So
good.
let's start with the reason we're here. So what inspired you to do this collection of short stories about an abandoned mental hospital?
There's a real abandoned psychiatric hospital on Long Island in Kings Park. It's the Kings Park Psychiatric Center. It's now Nissaquag River State Park. And I discovered this place around 1996. So I don't know the exact date that the hospital closed, but these grounds have been in disuse for over 30 years. And it's in a really unusual place for kind of a hospital. It's absolutely prime real estate. It's right up against the north shore of Long Island, where the Nissaquag River flows out to Long Island Sound, and there are woods and beaches and hiking trails and stuff that are now part of this park. There's a kayak and boat launch, and it's a great place to go hiking, just walk around. And I started taking pictures going there because I've just always been fascinated by abandoned buildings, abandoned locations of other kinds, places where it's like everyone just left one day and never went back, and nobody has bothered to tend to it ever since. And over the years, I took so many pictures there. And one of the reasons I kept going back, the place kept changing. I would go back and the graffiti would be different. Stuff that was boarded up had been ripped open. Stuff that was open had been boarded up. You could see signs of people coming and going, and it just became kind of fascinating to go around and take pictures. And eventually, I got to the point where I'm like, wow, there's got to be a lot of stories to these pictures, but I didn't want to write all of them. That sounded like a lot of writing to do for a book. So I reached out to a bunch of writers and even did a small open submissions call and basically shared an album of what I thought were the best photos I'd taken with those authors and said, just take a look at these, get a vibe, get a sense of the place, see if any one photo in particular inspires you and send me a story or a poem. And that's really where the book came from. And it was an interesting mix of what people took away from the photos and sort of the history of the place. I fictionalized it. So in the anthology, it's not Kings Park, it's St. John Land Hospital, which is a local name that I borrowed for it.
Makes sense. You know what? I mean, when did the actual hospital close? Do you know?
Before 1996, I suspect it was in the early 90s. I did look it up, and I just can't remember off the top of my head. It was built in 1885,
Hmm.
and it was
I just
originally
Googled it out of
oh
curiosity.
yeah, it was originally built to handle the overflow from hospitals in Brooklyn, and that this was before Brooklyn was even part of New York City properly. It was still just Kings County,
Mm.
and it was one of these psychiatric facilities and health facilities that was built to be self-sufficient. So it had a working farm. It had its own electrical plant when electricity came online. Over the years, it had its own theater, I believe, and a lot of the workers lived there. One of the weird things about the grounds is there's of course the huge sprawling hospital buildings, and then over in this other corner of the grounds are these little houses where the doctors or the staff lived.
So that's one thing that surprises me looking it up is apparently yes, it closed in 96.
Okay, yeah.
And the buildings are still there because when you first described it, I figured they tore them down. We talked a little bit before we came on air about an abandoned asylum. Spent some time hanging around as a ghost hunter called Byberry in Philadelphia, and they tore that whole place down and,
Yeah.
funny enough, replaced it with old folks' homes and office buildings.
Yeah, it's interesting that these buildings are still there, and I've heard different reasons for why they are still there.
Mhm.
The one that makes the most sense to me is the expense of clearing these buildings, which contain a lot of hazardous materials like asbestos. Um, and they have taken some of them down. It's interesting. They've cleared over the last maybe 15 years, cleared some and put in one of them they tore down and then put in like a softball field, which is just weird. Um, there's a soccer field they put in literally in the shadow of the most infamous building in the complex, Building 93, which is this 13-story um, monolith. It's like a huge grave marker for the whole facility, and it's just the eeriest building. And it's like right over the soccer fields. It's kind of such a weird contrast to me.
Yeah, that's arguably even weirder than putting an old folks' home on top
Right.
of Byberry. Granted, I happen to have an inside track that I know, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happened with Kings Park as well. But I know with Byberry, when they tore it down, they brought in a team of priests to perform ritual exorcisms over that land before they built anything on top of it.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, I don't know if they would do that for Kings Park or not, but I always think of when I think about tearing this place down, I always think of Session 9, the movie, the Brad Anderson
Mhm.
movie, if you've seen that, where the
Yes,
team is
I
brought
have. I've seen
in
that.
to do exactly that hazardous material remediation. And if you've seen the movie, you know it doesn't go well, but um, that's my guess. There probably are other factors. to it. But there was a lot of debate, I think, about repurposing the space for should it be high-end residential space or should it be a town facility? I mean, I think probably it's a state park at this point, so I don't think really much is going to change.
Yeah, that
But
might be a big part of the differences. As far as I know, Byberry wasn't turned into a park or anything. It was just
yeah,
all these buildings sitting on land, falling apart, full of asbestos and things like that. And they just got, it's like, we need to do something with this land. It's a huge waste of resources, and they got rid of it.
yeah. So, but I
But
mean, the buildings are. I have not really ventured into the buildings. I know people who have. I've never, you know, set more than a couple of feet inside to snap some pictures when there was a door open. I've never opened it, pulled open anything, or
yeah,
I'm just one. I'm like, I don't need to take that kind of risk. I'm a little bit of a coward about falling through a floor or something landing on my head or encountering. I've heard people who've encountered some rather belligerent homeless folks staying in the buildings, and it's like, yeah, I don't need that. But they're falling down. They're getting less safe by the
yeah.
year. And it was interesting. I was there recently, and they had put up a very high chain link fence all the way around one of the buildings that the last time I was there, you could walk right up to it. So I think
Hmm.
they're trying to secure some of it.
Yeah, with Byberry, it was a similar situation. We did go in. I went in once, and then my mentor Lou Gentili went in several times. Um, but we went in openings other people made. We didn't break in ourselves, which was never hard to find, particularly because we had friends that were urban explorers, and we just, so where do you guys go to get in? Okay, cool, we're following you.
Yeah.
And there were same concerns of there are 100 very good reasons to be very cautious with any kind of urban exploration like this, just because you don't want to fall through the floor, break your leg, and be miles from helping and find out, congratulations, this is cellular dead zone.
Yeah,
Which, for
exactly.
example, is why when we went in a group of usually close to 10 or more people. So if something happens to one of you, there's somebody else to drag your body out if they have to.
No, that's smart. I don't think I could get nine other people to go with me into those buildings. None of my friends are that. I have a couple of friends who have gone into those buildings, but it was when they were younger,
Yeah.
and they've no
And
interest
they
in doing
didn't
it
get
now.
safer.
Yeah.
I know poignantly, one of the times Lou was in there was very close to when they tore it down. And they're hearing footsteps and voices out of the one stairwell. And they go, and lo and behold, there's nobody in that stairwell.
Mm,
And then they did some EVP and they caught voices whispering in the stairwell on recording that they couldn't hear with their ears.
that's cool.
And then it turned out like a week later, there was a guy like the Session 9 guy, somebody who worked in these kinds of buildings, had done it for years. And he was standing at the top of that same stairway and the stairs collapsed and he died.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Which, yeah, which is horrible and led to some questions of did he maybe hear some of the same things they were hearing and did the obvious thing of let's go, somebody's in here, let's go figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
It is
No.
really horrible timing.
Well, that's exactly why I've stayed clear of,
Yeah,
the
and why I
interiors.
consider that sane and rational
Yeah,
behavior on your. Yes, I went into Byberry, but I went into Byberry in my 20s.
right, right. Yeah, that's the other thing.
I'm not sure. As much as part of me wants to go, like, oh, let's take a drive up there and check out this hospital. It's like, I'm going to be 50 in 2 weeks. This is not a good plan, even with a group of people, because, yeah, if you go in with 10 people and you die, the other nine people can drag your body out for the funeral, but you're still dead.
Right. Yeah. You're not lost to history, but it's all over.
Yeah, or for that matter, I don't really want to break my leg either.
Not for something like that. No.
Yeah, yeah, I'd rather not do it at all, but especially not for that. So you said that most of the stories, or at least some of the stories, you had other people write. How many did you write your own in that, and how many?
Well, I wrote a story set in this location
Mhm.
some years back. It was published a couple of years ago in Cemetery Dance magazine. It's called They Listen. And for this project, it's being included as a bonus story in the limited hardcover edition that we're publishing, which will also be the only full color edition of the book.
Hmm.
But for the anthology, I didn't write a story of poems and short stories by 19 writers. And what I did is write a narrative framing sequence around all those stories that gives a little bit of another layer to the whole reading experience. So, like, it's an anthology that probably is best read in order. A lot of people like to bounce around in anthologies, which is fine, but this is one where if you read it through from start to finish, you'll get like this other level of story out of it because there's like a it's sort of a meta narrative in a way, but
Mhm.
it's also pointing out sort of the liminality of this place, and it's framed in the style of a consultant's report. And this consultant was sent to do a number of visits at the site, working with these three unusual people who had strange expertise. One of them's a psychic, one is into dowsing rods and runes, and the other is sort of the scientific take on that. And he has this weird unnamed machine that just is creates this horrible sensation in people. And these are sort of the bits and pieces in between that hold all the works together, plus the photographs. So there's a lot of my work in the book, but the stories and poems I didn't write.
Fair enough. And that
Yeah.
I've read a fair number of short story collections over the years, and personally, stylistically, I actually kind of prefer that where there's linking story or themes or something that binds it together. Nothing against us, collection, just a good collection of short stories, but
Yeah.
it's more fun when there's a benefit to reading it as a sequence instead of just random, reading a short story here or there in different magazines or different books.
I think most anthologists really sweat the sequence of stories
Mm.
and we put the books together to be read in order. But we know that there are those readers out there who are just going to read the shortest story first, wherever it falls in the book, or read their favorite author in the book first and just jump around, and that's fine too. I mean, you get you can enjoy it that way too. But I know a lot of us really feel like we're putting together an experience. It's almost like an album, listening to it from start to finish, concept
Especially I
album.
would think with the pictures connecting to the stories, like you're saying, it
Yeah,
definitely feels like the sort of thing that's better read as intended instead of piecemeal.
I think so. But I won't hold it against anybody who reads it out of order.
Yeah, I was about to say on the purely practical side of the thing, they bought the book.
Yes,
You want them to buy the book and you want them to enjoy the book. If they enjoyed it the different way than you intended, at least they enjoyed the book and maybe give you a
exactly.
nice
That's
review.
I'm very pleased with that if they do, if they enjoy it.
But I intended to pick up the book, and when I do pick up the book, I'll wind up reading it in order.
Thank you. Yes, you can let me know if it works.
I will. And I'll give you a review as well because I know too many authors to not understand the importance of a good review.
Yeah, I wish more readers left reviews, definitely. I mean, we could all use a few more reviews to help people find our work.
Yeah, and again, it's one of the core things with doing this show is I've had Dacre Stoker on, who's fairly well known. I've had Jim Butcher on, who's extremely well known.
Yeah, yeah.
But and they're both delightful people. I have nothing but nice things about to say about them, and I'm happy to have them on again. But I love having other authors aren't necessarily that have run the gamut of fame, I should say, to try and give everybody a voice. There's a lot of really cool things I think more people should read.
Yeah, I agree. And as a reader, um, I always feel bad because there's more stuff that I want to read than I could ever read.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much good fiction being published these days in horror and science fiction, in other genres too, and I just can't even keep track anymore how many times I see a book and say, "Oh, that looks great. I really want to read that," and then I glance over at the 30 books on my shelf that I haven't even cracked yet, and it's like, oh, I'll just never get to it.
I was just in a book, literally today. I was just in a bookstore because I got a Barnes and Noble gift card from my family for my upcoming birthday, and
Cool.
like just going through it and going, all the things I'd love to buy, but I only have so much to spend today.
Yes.
And yeah, and I have piles of books around my trailer. I've got books on my tablet, on books on my laptop, and all the. I should get to that one of these days. Shiny new book.
Yeah, it's just weird because I still think of these books. If I haven't read them yet, I think of them as new. It's like, oh, I've got to read that new book by so and so, and then I'll pick it up and it's like copyright 2013 or something. Like, oh crap, I'm really behind.
I think I feel that. It's like, yes, it's new. I mean, yeah, okay, it came out before I was born, but I haven't read it yet, so it's new to me.
Right, exactly.
But so I'm also curious. You mentioned this before we got on air, and I definitely wanted to save this because this is far more on air. You said you've had some interesting experiences around the asylum. What sort of stuff's happened?
Nothing too alarming or shocking. They range from early on when I was going there to take pictures. For some reason, the battery in my camera would die. I would get there, it would be fully charged, or they'd be new batteries, and like 20 minutes in, it's like low battery. I could never figure out what was happening. And I would charge, it was a digital camera, and I would charge it other times. And it would be fine. It was just, I just had bad luck going there and the battery would die on me. That was one thing that happened several times. Um, one time, um, this was more of a humorous experience, but this hospital, Kings Park Psychiatric Center, in the
Hmm?
early to mid 20th century, was a center for studying Klein-Levin syndrome, which is also called Sleeping Beauty syndrome, and it's a weird affliction, mostly of teenagers who experience hypersomnia. They sleep, they can't stay awake, and when they are awake, they have extremely um, sort of manic or exaggerated behavior or uncontrolled behavior. It was first identified in Europe, and then I think in the 20s to the 30s, it became um, something that was being studied at this hospital in New York. And so they had a lot of these kids there. Before I knew
Fascinating.
about that, I was walking in the park, and this old guy, it was like something out of a movie. This old guy on a bicycle rides up to me and my wife out of nowhere. I have no idea where this guy came from. All of a sudden, he's just there on his bicycle, and he stops and he starts telling us about this. He's like, "Oh, do you guys know about the sleeping kids?" And he starts telling us this whole story, and like they kept him here and they did this and that. And all I could think of was like that Harbinger of Doom character that shows up in all the
Yeah.
slasher movies at the gas station. I'm like, okay. And then he's like, so be careful. And he rides off. It's like, um, those are probably the two most interesting things. I've heard stuff, and, I don't know if it's just normal debris falling, wind
Mhm.
knocking. I've definitely heard the wind knocking stuff on the buildings, but sometimes you're walking, it's quiet, it's still, and all of a sudden there's just sound from inside the building. And I'm like, all right, who's in there? Are they
Which also
watching
could
me? What?
quite simply be homeless people inside.
It could. It could be any number. It could be kids. I've
Yeah.
definitely seen kids in the buildings or on the
Oh
buildings.
God, yeah, of course.
I've heard rumors that some local gangs have used those buildings for getting rid of the evidence, so to speak. I have no idea if that's true. I've never seen that substantiated, but I've heard it from a couple of sources. And but once you hear something in the buildings, then you're immediately like you've got that sense of eyes on you. You're being watched, and everywhere you go, you're just convinced someone or something in the building is
Oh
paying
yeah.
attention to your every move. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, the times we were in Byberry, lots of times we'd have weird things. We'd hear music or people talking, and the instinctive reaction wasn't ghosts; it was people. It's like, are we about to round the corner into a bunch of drug addicts throwing some sort of rave or gang initiation ceremonies or God knows what?
yeah.
There's lots of very. It's the thing I always try to drive home when I do videos, especially when I talk about like you want to go ghost hunting. It's like keep in mind all the practical considerations of you're going into an abandoned building late at night. Bring someone with you, not because fear and just because you fall and break your leg, you want somebody to be there. If you hear sounds of there's a story my mentor had of doing an investigation in Maryland, I want to say, with because it was at a convention and was with some celebrity type people. I want to say, yeah, George Lutz from the Amityville Horror was there,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they're in this abandoned building and they hear the sound of voices and people running around upstairs. And George and a lot of other people's there's reaction was, "Oh, let's go! It was Scooby Doo. Let's go check it out, gang." Lou's reaction is, "Yeah, let's leave and come back later." Not because he's afraid of ghosts, because I don't know who the fuck is in this building in the middle of the night. There's a really practical, rational reason to be very cautious.
100%. Yeah. There's a lot more corporeal threats that you can cross
I
paths.
will say, in terms of the batteries dying,
Yeah.
welcome to the life of a ghost hunter. Um, it is standard practice for most investigators, myself included, to bring multiple sets of batteries because I doing filming for the Learning Channel when they did a special in 2001 called "The Entity: The Terror That Comes at the Night." We watched, I want to say, yeah, three fully charged new batteries charged by people who were highly experienced cameramen who knew what the frick they're doing drain in 20 minutes in the same house. Um, I
Wow.
remember going with Lou into Balroy Mansion, which is an old mansion. At the time, it was owned by the last living descendant of General Meade from the Civil War.
Okay.
Um, that gentleman, very nice gentleman, has since passed away. So I don't know what's happened to it since, but it's this beautiful historic mansion in Northeast Philly. And yeah, again, Lou's off to do EVPs, which was his signature thing in the paranormal. And the batteries are dead within brand new batteries are dead within minutes.
So
Um,
is it just bad luck, or do you think there's
I've seen it
some
happen. And every investigator I know has seen it happen too consistently, and often in patterns like three times,
hmm,
which is traditionally, as you may not know, a symbol of demonic activity is things occurring in threes. I think it's something paranormal. There's a variety of accounts, take them as they will, because it's firsthand anecdotal, of spirits being able to mess with electrical devices.
okay.
Um, Particularly, yeah, like making draining batteries very quickly. There's also accounts of people that will see some of those dramatic accounts you'll have of people seeing a ghost is in the middle of a raging thunderstorm, and it'll appear in a flash of light with a smell like ozone.
Hmm.
And
All
they
right.
see it seems like spirits may have the ability to use that electrical energy to manifest. So that's one theory about what's going on. I don't know, but I know enough to prepare for it and bring backup batteries.
Yes. Well, I think that's what I started doing was bringing extra batteries. I had a couple of different cameras over the years, and some used regular batteries, and some I had to charge, and
Yeah.
just
Even
bringing
when I bring
extra.
a rechargeable battery device, I
Yeah.
try to bring a spare battery charged battery.
Yes. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those places where and I'm sure you experience this at Byberry and other places. It's just that it evokes weird ideas.
Yeah.
You just look at things and think, oh, that seems pretty sinister. Why is that there? And every time I saw something like that, I tried to get it
On
photographed,
film.
record it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or I did pretty much all digital. I didn't really shoot a
Well,
lot of film
yeah,
photography.
digital or not, at least I tend to think of everything as film, even though
Yeah.
we don't use film anymore, or at least most of us don't. There are professional photographers that do.
Oh yeah. There's still
But
stuff you can do with film you can't do digitally. So.
yeah, and it's just the reality if you want to document it.
Mhm.
It's the same in the paranormal communities. Like if I see something weird, I want to photograph it and I want to see what happened. And sometimes you get some weird stuff on film that way. Though not as often as you think, because a lot of the times, if you see something with the naked eye, it usually doesn't. If it's spiritual, it won't appear on film. And if you capture it on film or on digital, you won't see it with the naked eye.
That's interesting.
And there's theories about that as well. And usually the theory is most of the time when you see a spirit, you're not seeing it through the visual cortex of the eye and the brain, because otherwise you'd be able to film it. Well, that's just how visible light works.
Right.
It's an image that's being sent to you telepathically.
Okay.
And then if it's showing up on film, the spirit is some way interacting with the recording medium to produce it on the medium, which is why you don't actually see it. It's an
Like,
I find it an interesting idea, but it's like I don't know. I
right.
just know sometimes you get it on one, sometimes you get it on the other. Very, very rarely you'll get it on both.
Interesting. Have you gotten anything on both?
Um, Personally, no.
Okay.
I I've heard the closest I've come is I've done several houses. You know what EVP is?
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this on the show too many times. Our listeners should know. If you don't know, just Google it. But I've done lots of houses where we'll talk to the client, and the client will tell us, she hears voice or he hears voices while laying in bed saying X, Y, and Z, and then we get recordings, and when we play them back, their voices saying the same things the clients told us. And it's our recording equipment, so it's not like they can edit our equipment in real time to put the information on there.
Yeah.
And the next obvious explanation being somebody, a low level recording or something like that, which we don't detect ourselves. And you can have two recorders of the same model sitting side by side. One picks something up and the other one doesn't, or and sometimes they both pick something up. It's quite strange.
Okay. Well, I guess if it wasn't strange, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
paranormal.
And sometimes, although it's always worth saying, it's like, yeah, lots of times there's normal explanations for things,
Yeah.
and even when one device gets it and one device doesn't, audio devices, especially older audio devices, are so persnickety,
Hmm.
and one might just be in exactly the right spot with all the things lined to pick up a stray radio signal, and the one 3 inches away doesn't pick it up because it's at a different angle, or isn't. There's not a wire misconnecting somewhere inside the one that is in the other. Um,
Yeah.
One of the funniest experiences I had with like that, come to think of it, I did a house in South Jersey which had more EVP than any home I've ever seen in my life before or since. Every recording device we ever brought in there, and we tried it with 8-track, we tried it with reel to reel, we tried it with digital. Every type of device we brought in, we got voices. They would refer to people by name, they would give dates, they would be very specific.
Wild.
And to the point that it's clearly not just it'd be very unlikely to be radio that's specifically referring to the woman whose house it is by name and saying Susan, which is the pseudonym I use for hers as privacy, come with us, which she's already told us several times she hears, and now we're recording it. And it's like, that's real convenient. But one night, we're sitting midway through an investigation, and we set up a big boom microphone with just a set of headphones just to hear and see what happens. And so the one investigator, Salu, specifically puts them on and goes, "What is that?" Looks real confused and hands it to the second investigator, who goes, "I think it's Russian. It sounds like Russian. Hey, Kevin, you've got an ear for language. Not in the sense I can speak languages. I'm terrible at that, but like knowing what an accent is and things like that. What do you think it sounds like?" And he hands the headphones to me, and I put them over my ears, and it's a voice giving a monologue in what sounds to me like either Russian or some Eastern European language.
Okay.
If we moved the microphone like 2 or 3 inches off center, you didn't hear it anymore. But if you moved it back, you'd hear it again. There was this one very precise spot in the kitchen that we picked up what we assumed was a Russian radio operator talking in Russian.
Right. Yeah. So potentially a natural explanation for it.
Almost certainly a natural.
Yeah.
That particular case is like I don't think there's anything paranormal about it. I think it's a weird natural coincidence. But it
Yeah.
was still
Yeah.
funny to be sitting there going, "Wait, what the heck is this?" And that can, especially this was early 2000s era boom mic. It's like, yeah, they picked up, picking up radio signals would have been very normal for technology at the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it makes me think of if you've ever seen This Is Spinal Tap, that classic scene where their wireless amplifier connections are picking up the air traffic control signal
Yeah,
at the Air Force Base.
there's a famous story as well that what's her name? Lucille Ball, that's the one,
Oh, okay.
who claimed to be hearing spies through her fillings. And whether or not she heard like radio transmission or fillings, it's a matter of record through the CIA or the FBI, whoever it was at the time. I honestly forget that she reported, "Hey, she's picking up weird radio signals in this area. Go check it out." And they actually did find spies,
Oh, wow.
and they did find this recording device. I mean, it's possible the radio transmission through her teeth was Lucy being Lucy in comedy, but there's definitely a kernel of truth to the story.
Well,
And
I've heard accounts of that where
yeah,
Billings picked up radio signals. I thought that that was established as something that could happen and maybe has happened.
I remember the MythBusters tested it,
Yeah.
but I'm honestly not sure. So it may very well be confirmed one way or the other. But
Well, if the Mythbusters tested it, I would take their conclusion one way or the other because
yeah,
that
I
would,
don't remember the conclusion is the
yeah,
problem. I remember the test, not the end result.
right,
But I specifically do remember Adam commenting. I think it was basically one of those plausible situations of it's possible if exactly all the right things line up, it's possible. But they couldn't be. There's no way to be sure it was true in that specific case.
right. Okay, that makes sense.
But there is just the reality of Lucille Ball was an interesting character. She may have made up the story to cover for something else that was going on.
Oh, yeah, totally possible. Yeah.
I'm going to Google it real quick because I'm curious.
Okay.
Yes, it is a rare phenomenon, mostly tied to older metallic filings, particularly amalgam or gold filings. But
Yeah.
yes, it can happen.
Yeah. I
And
think the
yeah, it
materials they
does
use
list the Lucille
today.
Ball case.
Oh, does it? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Specifically, it
think,
was supposed to be Morse code through her
oh, okay.
denture, through her teeth. And which is the other thing I like to point out with doing the ghost hunting thing is it's like even aside from the paranormal experiences I've had, there's plenty of weird things with humans.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, I'm sure you're aware. Right, writers, in my experience, meet a lot of interesting people too.
Yep. And we read a lot about a lot of weird things that happen
Yeah,
historically just because it's good material. And you kind of wonder, well, I want to do this in a story. Is this even remotely possible? And then you'll find out it's happened like six times in history, and you're like, good to go.
yeah. There's a joke that's made mostly about people like me who do Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm entirely certain that knowing writers as I do, it happens with you of a moment where like the CIA or really the NSA who are supposed to be monitoring the internal stuff and is going, sir, there's an unusual amount of activity out of this one town looking into like serial killing and what poisons are hardest to detect. And it's like, let it go. They're gamers. They just research weird shit. And I'm certain there are a lot of writers of various government. Not so much government watch lists as so much as a yeah. If this guy comes up researching something weird, it's a writer. Don't worry about it.
Right, right.
We know what he's up to. He's harmless.
It wouldn't surprise me if they had that level of distinction on their intelligence data.
You think, practically speaking, I think they kind of have to, just because we know that they have this, that AI and things like that monitor our search histories.
Hmm.
And if they're not keeping running lists of the people that research weird crap, they're they're wasting a lot of time and money in investigating something that's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
On the other hand, I did just accuse the federal government, and worse still, intelligence, of behaving in a rational, money saving way, which is almost insulting to either. So, worth mentioning, just because we want to promote. And again, folks, go check out the Kickstarter in the description. How long is that going?
We have 3 days left. We're right down to the wire on the Kickstarter. Yeah, it ends very early on the morning of July 2nd.
So
So
good. I'm very glad we got you in before then.
thank you. Sorry, my dogs are starting to have some fun behind me if you if you
Uh,
see
I,
them.
I, noticed the one dog behind you on the right,
Yeah, there's
poking
another
his
one
head
back
around the
there,
screen
but
for a while now.
she's dodging the camera. But yeah, it's coming up. We're like 83% of the way there. I'm really hoping we can cross the finish line before the campaign ends. And one of the things I've been telling people is this is the only way to get the full color limited hardcover edition. We won't be publishing that for general release. So if people like hardcover books, like full color photographs, this is the one to check out. And that will have the bonus story that I talked about in it. And then there will be a general paperback release in the fall.
Good.
Yeah.
Probably won't manage the hardcover, just time and money. Times and
Oh yeah.
money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think
No,
I should be able to get in there on the at least a paperback level.
that'd be great. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I appreciate all the support. One of the things that has been most surprising for me about doing a Kickstarter campaign is just how supportive people have been. It's just wild to see so many people I know sharing this stuff on social media, helping to spread the word and back the actual campaign. But we've got so many people I don't know backing the campaign that I feel like the project is connecting with an audience, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, I always like when I see. I mean, it's always nice when I see people share my videos, for example, who are friends of mine. And it's also very cool when it's like, wait, you're commenting, or I otherwise I know that you saw what I did, and I have no idea who you are. And that's wonderful.
Yes.
But do you have any other projects you want to plug that are coming up soon, or anything that just came out?
My most recent collection is A Bright and Beautiful Eternal World, and it's a collection of Lovecraftian cosmic horror,
Ooh.
which I had a lot of fun writing. I don't know. Are my dogs interfering? Can you hear them?
No, I could see the tail wiggling around.
Oh,
That's all.
okay.
I don't hear anything the dog's doing.
Great. They've got a toy. They're tugging. They're growling at each other. Oh, good. One of them just got it and ran off. Maybe they'll go away. Come back. Oh, nope, they're back. Sorry. And
No, that's fine.
I've been writing these stories for about 15 years. They're set in a fictional town called Nixport, which is my little slice of Lovecraft country set on Long Island.
Okay.
And this is they all are interconnected through locations and characters, although they stand alone, and they take place from the starting back in the 1930s, 1920s, 1930s, up to the not too distant future. Um,
Nice. And I can't speak for all of my listeners, but I will say I love a good cosmic horror story.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of it, and I love that it's so popular right now, and that so many writers are doing good cosmic horror
Oh yeah.
and breaking breaking out of the like I guess sort of the boundaries that we've seen in cosmic horror. So I mean, my stories are Lovecraftian based, but they're not Lovecraftian in style or structure in the sense that I'm not doing pastiches. I'm just borrowing concepts as part of the environment. And I've been even more impressed with seeing other writers go even farther than that and just sort of reinvent the whole idea of cosmic horror to get away from Lovecraft, which I mean, obviously Lovecraft is a huge influence, but he wasn't the first, which is something I've learned over the years doing research and going back and reading writers like Robert W. Chambers and William Hope Hodgson, and just seeing where the real roots of the whole subgenre are.
Yeah, he popularized it, but the idea is certainly older. Just which actually reminds me of another. I should mention that this doesn't. It only tangentially relates here, folks. If you didn't know, I've started a new YouTube series under a new channel called Woke History, where I
What?
talk about LGBT history. And so far, it's all been LGBT history. Although I also did a video just today about how Texas passed the law saying they have to teach the Bible now.
Okay, yeah.
So I gave some helpful suggestions. In the interest of obeying that law, and the right wing desired to teach the Bible in high school, of which Bible verses they should teach.
Oh,
Like for example, there's Ezekiel 23:20, which is about how much a woman is very fond of her male partner's members, both their size and the emissions of those members, or the pro-slavery verses and things like that. Just to go, you guys sure you really want this taught? Because here's what it says in the NSRSV. Here's what it says in the King James. And that's really awkward for you, you know. Um, but one of the videos down the road I want to do is the role that women played in the history of science fiction. And everyone will point to Mary Shelley as kind of the mother of the science fiction genre.
Right.
And she deserves massive credit for Frankenstein being one of the most important early works of science fiction. And for that
Definitely.
matter, inventing the post apocalyptic genre with The Last Man on Earth. But not only is she not the first science fiction author, she's not the first woman to write science fiction.
So who predates Mary Shelley?
Um, there is a scientist, and let me get her name because I am going to forget.
Okay.
But mm, she wrote a book called The Blazing World.
Oh, I have not heard of this. Okay.
Yeah, Margaret Cavendish, the Duchess of Newcastle upon Tyne, in 1666,
Wow.
wrote a story about that was a utopian fantasy, political theory, and philosophy, and a little bit of a travel log of another world that was reached through like the Northern Lights.
Okay.
And it is very much an early forerunner of science fiction, and it deals with the scientific method and gender roles and all these different things. And that was in 1666. So I'm all for giving Mary Shelley her credit as this important forerunner of science fiction, but it's like there are other people that deserve credit here.
Yeah, and I think that's the one of the things we have to do is get these things out and in the light, get these
Yeah,
facts out in the light. Like this is I wasn't familiar with this book, so I will have to I'm now going to have to track it down because this is kind of
yeah.
fascinating, and it's also making me think of there was this sort of this fascination with the Arctic and the Antarctic as
Mhm.
portals to other worlds. Poe writes about it in uh, Arthur Pym. And there's a really weird book called The Purple Cloud. I'm blanking on the name of the author. Um,
It sounds familiar.
it's from I think I'll just look it up. I read this a little while back and I just can't remember the author's name. Oh, M.P. Shiel
Yeah.
from 1901, and it's this weird apocalyptic vision that starts out with a journey to the Arctic and this strange light phenomenon that occurs there and series of events that trigger um, basically the end of the world. Um, and it's probably it's the earliest I know of genuinely apocalyptic end of the world in like the vein of the Stand novel.
Mm.
Like this is he comes back and everybody's dead and it's just this bizarre thing. And um, but it's interesting because that in the Blazing World, that's where they go to the North Pole, and it starts. That's where yeah, I'm just looking at the brief summary here. That's where the portal to this other world
Yep.
is, which is really cool. I think people were fascinated with that land because it was such a mystery. That those places, the Antarctic and the Arctic.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's also the whole idea of the hollow earth
Yeah,
and the idea that there's a giant tunnel or some or hole that led there from from the Antarctic.
yeah,
And
definitely. There's been a lot of fun stories made up around that.
and particularly there's a lot of conspiracy theories with the Nazis supposedly having some sort of secret base down there. But
Yeah,
then
those
again,
are fun.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Those are fun. That's all. Fun
I was gonna
stories.
say you can't have a conspiracy theory go for very long without mentioning the Nazis somewhere. It's like a law in the conspiracy theory community, I think.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. I mean, it seemed like for a few years that was the entire content of the History Channel was Nazi conspiracy theories and Nazi occult, um, efforts during World War II and all of that weird
That is
stuff.
rather interesting.
It is. I mean, and to the
Well,
extent,
no, I looked it up and I was curious of if there was anything like that the Nazis ever actually got up to, because they were into a great deal of weird nonsense,
yeah,
particularly the Aeronautica, the SS's anthropology department that was trying to prove that their beliefs about the ancient um, Aryan people being the actual masterminds of everything. And they did actually, apparently, they looked into a theory at the time that the Earth wasn't, that there, not only is there a hollow Earth, but we're living in it. That basically what we think is a sphere is actually inverted and the sun is in the center of this sphere, and then the Earth just rotates around, is spread out around it in a complete circle. If you get what I'm saying.
yeah, no, well, okay. I mean, people can believe what they want.
Yeah, and in 1942, apparently they went to an island in the Baltic, a Baltic island, and went looking for this. Obviously, they didn't find anything, but they
Right.
tried.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing, and it all makes good fodder for stories. Like, I think that's a part of the
Oh yeah,
origin of like Hellboy, the Hellboy comic book, and there've been movies and stuff. But um, it's, I think once we started,
mostly fiction. It
it's
looks
yeah,
like
it's all fiction.
there
My
was.
favorite Hollow Earth is Hollow Earth story is The Warlord, which is an old DC comic by Mike Grell, where the main character flies a spy plane inadvertently into a hole in the earth and, you know, find himself in the world inside. And it's a fun story. It's, pure fantasy, but
It's one argument I would certainly make that I think has validity. I think we can all agree that even though I believe in the occult and magic, it's like I think the Nazis were mostly into self delusional nonsense. Like a lot of people actually into occultism, in my opinion, are into self delusional nonsense. Um, but
yeah.
if we lived in a world where magic was as real as it is in comic books and movies, obviously, yes, the Nazis would be trying to get a hold of that power. The U.S. government would be trying to, everybody would be trying to get a hold of that power the same way they do any new highly destructive discovery anyone makes.
Of course.
So it's like for a story, it makes sense because it's like, no, this is just how people behave. But even the craziest of us will usually eventually go, yeah, there's nothing there. We need to stop wasting money on it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm all sane, rational people will, but I don't think anyone would consider the Nazis to have been particularly sane people. Evil, of
True.
course,
Although certainly we
irrational
know
in
from his letters and his personal commentary, Hitler believed in some strange things. There's an idea popular at the time as an alternative to the Big Bang called world ice theory, where the world basically formed out of giant balls of ice in space. And Hitler seemed to have probably believed that. But that wasn't, at the time, certainly that wasn't so much utter nonsense as they called it border science, or today we might call it pseudoscience. It was somebody trying to do science and failing,
yeah. Well, I
as
mean,
opposed
there's
to
a
just
lot of
believing in magical
examples.
wizard powers.
There's
But
tons of examples of that throughout history. I mean, there were many
yeah,
years where people believed that Mars had canals, literal
yeah.
canals of water, just because of what people saw through telescopes, which was insufficient to really understand what they were seeing.
As I understand it, what we eventually realized was they're rivers, or they're dried up rivers, but they
Yeah,
were at one time rivers.
possibly.
Like
Yeah. Well, they've found ice on Mars, I believe, at this point at the
well, yeah,
poles.
one of the poles is mostly dry ice, so carbon dioxide, but the other one is in fact water.
Yeah.
And again, it's also a much smaller claim to say, okay, there was liquid water on Mars at some time in its past, versus intelligently dug canals.
Right.
But again, I think a lot of it, you're right, is they misunderstood the best information that they had,
Hmm.
not that they were just making up like there's a famous picture of the face on Mars.
Yeah.
And if you look at the picture that was taken, it really does look like a face. I mean, it's not that much pareidolia. What you realize, though, is if you look at any subsequent picture taken at the same spot, it was the right time of day and the right angle to get just the right picture to make it look like a face. If you go looking for it now, you're more likely just going to get a bunch of craters and shadows that don't look like anything.
I think there are pictures of it taken
There
at
are,
different
and they
times.
don't look
Yeah,
anything like the face people are
exactly. It's like
describing.
you do side by side, and it's yeah, that one that looks like a face is really just like you said, it's the
It's
right time, right
Yeah, it is the
light.
glass slipper of timing. It's just the perfect
Yeah.
time to find it. The other one I always find funny because sometimes even these wrong turns prove useful. Have you ever heard of LGM1?
No, I don't think so.
LGM1 stands for Little Green Man 1.
Okay.
It is a stable radio signal that we received from somewhere in outer space. And for a while, when they first discovered it, because it was a constant, repeating, consistent signal, the thought was it was made by intelligent life. It wasn't. And and to be fair, there was a speculation it might be intelligent life, but calling it Little Green Man 1 was intended to be a joke, even by
Yeah.
the people who discovered it, not super serious. What they also didn't realize, which was also incredibly valuable, it's not intelligent life. It was the first radio emitting pulsar we ever discovered.
Yeah.
So like
So
going and
natural
going, well, wait, what
explanation.
is this and why is it doing this? Still proves useful, even though it isn't like what we all hoped it would be, or dreaded in some cases.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I love about the paranormal is there are tons of stories of somebody went looking for ghosts, but they found what they found wasn't a ghost, but it's still helpful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eliminating possibilities is as useful in a search
Yeah,
for
oh yeah.
truth. Yeah.
And also just a simple question of something weird's happening. Instead of ignoring it as ghosts don't exist, I'm not going to go look at it. Go figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Because the guy who invented the I always mix the two up, the EEG and the EKG, the one that reads your brain waves.
I think that's the EEG, the
Yeah,
electroencephalograph, right?
that's an
EEG.
electroencephalograph.
Yeah.
The guy who invented that was had a horseback riding accident where he fell off a horse and broke his arm. At the
Okay.
same time, his sister had a premonition that he was in danger, and he was so fascinated by that story he went and invented the EEG.
That's cool.
Um,
That's a
and then there's the
phenomenon that
yeah,
I am less skeptical of is that sort of intuitive connection between people who are very close.
oh yeah,
I've just had experiences where I can't quite explain it, where people have had feelings about me or I've had feelings
yeah.
about them at this
And it turns
particular
out you're right.
time. And it turns out there was some real stress or something dangerous. And I have no idea what that is, but is it really just deeply buried intuition and subconscious logic bubbling up to the surface? You've put several things together without knowing what they are, and it produced this conclusion that you can't
It's That's a
articulate.
problem. It's hard to know. I'm
Yeah.
inclined to think. Uh, for as much as I believe in weird things, I'm very skeptical, as we were saying before, about psychics,
Mhm.
mostly because so many of them are frauds or nuts or both. Because some of the frauds eventually buy into their own BS. But I think, and there are actually a number of studies that have been done that strongly suggest something is going on when they've tested for psychic ability that falls outside of what random chance should dictate.
Mm.
But it's by such a small margin, it's not that statistically significant.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of falls in there. Is it's like, yeah, but you can't control it. You can't switch it on and off. And half the time, you may not find out for years later. So, from a scientific perspective, it's a little bit useless.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a weird thing, right?
Yeah,
It's just that weird effect that sometimes we all experience, like deja vu, which I think they've documented at least a strong theory about why deja vu occurs, but it's that weird feeling that you get and you can't explain it in the moment.
And there's a lot of stories of that. There are a lot of stories of, again, like one of the other favorite ones. It's a real interesting one. The mass spectrograph.
Okay.
The guy who created that was inspired by psychics,
Oh,
because there is a book that was published by a group called the Theosophical Society. You've probably heard of it,
yeah.
called Occult Chemistry, where the not the founder, but like the next person down the line in terms of succession, Annie Besant, and another person claimed to use clairvoyance to examine the universe on the atomic level. And while they were doing this, they listed
Hmm.
new elements that they were discovering that no one else had yet. And one of the ones they mentioned is called paraneon. And they give an atomic weight for it and an atomic number for it. And then this guy who developed the spectrograph discovered a isotope of neon that almost exactly fits the description that the psychic supposedly gave. And how influential was it to his work? Well, when he gave his Nobel acceptance speech, he directly name dropped both the authors and the book as a major influence. In later years, he walked back from that and tried to separate himself. But at least at the time, he was willing to admit that this idea inspired what he was looking, what he ultimately found. And it's hard to dismiss that because, again, it's like, how did they know?
Well, or did they know? Was it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a stretch, but is it coincidental? They just
it could be, but
cooked this thing up and it
it's
happened to
really
match.
specific to have been a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing when it's so specific,
Yeah.
it's hard to just dismiss it as a coincidence. But that it makes me think of one of the areas where I find it very interesting, mostly for potential for story material, but the whole um history of sort of the remote viewing projects that the
Oh,
government
yes.
undertook, which and that it was like this secret competition with the Soviet Union about, remote viewing stuff. And I find that stuff fascinating because it went on for so long without anyone really crediting it.
And a lot of the researchers don't seem to have taken it terribly seriously. I mean, the code name was Project Stargate, yes, from the movie. They refer to each other as Jedi and things. Yeah, there's a ton of pop culture references, both probably out of they weren't taking what they were doing terribly seriously, and scientists are also very often are also nerds.
Well, the,
um,
the the most grounded explanation I heard for the programs was it was a way to get the Soviet Union to waste money
yeah,
because they
but then
they
again, we
thought the
wasted a
U.S.
lot of money on it too.
Yeah, well, I guess in theory we had more money to waste. I don't know, but it was let's amp this up and make it seem like they're making great strides, and then the
Well,
Russians
again,
feel like they've got
especially
to.
I think at first there would have very much been a logic of, well, if this does exist, we should figure out a way to use it and weaponize it.
That's true. Yeah.
But eventually it does become a question. It's like, okay, if, as the public reports say, it wasn't producing any useful results, you shouldn't keep throwing money after it. There are more important practical things to research. I will say the version of this that we have records of that's also extremely funny and true is we know that during World War II, there's a whole series of propaganda wars going on between British intelligence and the Nazis involving astrology,
Hmm.
where one side would drop astrological charts on the other side, predicting that they were going to win the war. And the British dropped astrological charts on the Nazis. The Nazis circulated um, altered predictions by Nostradamus predicting Hitler's victory in the war. And this went on for months. And a lot of money was sunk into it. And there's very little evidence that the command on either side actually believed in astrology. They just saw it as an effective tool of propaganda against the other side.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a way maybe start rumors or control the conversation. And
Or the one I always like, there was a British intelligence officer during World War II who suggested that they should hire Aleister Crowley, who I'm sure you've heard of,
oh yes,
to tell them what the German astrologers were telling the High Command to do, because it was definitely a belief that a lot of the German High Command was like super into astrology, which mostly they weren't. The exception of all this being Heinrich Himmler, who was into every weird paranormal thing you can imagine and then some. But we also know the same British intelligence officer later, when Speer, this Hitler's original second in command, who got the bright idea to fly to England to broker a peace treaty without consulting with anyone first, and then his fighter plane crashed in Scotland. But when he got caught by British intelligence, the same intelligence officer again suggested hiring Aleister Crowley to help interrogate him, because he was one of the members of High Command who actually had an interest in the occult.
uh,
And the whole story becomes funnier when you realize the British intelligence officer in question was Ian Fleming, the author of James Bond.
so so I guess he's thinking maybe to bring Crowley in for the interrogation as sort of a
Yeah.
psyop kind of thing, where it will freak this guy out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's
the thing
cool.
is, there's at least some. It's up, still very much up for debate, but there is some evidence that at least during World War I, he was getting paid by British intelligence, which wasn't because he was such a great genius, so much as everyone in Europe knew who Crowley was. Everyone in Europe thought Crowley was a blithering idiot, but they didn't really care where he went or what he did. So when he'd go on vacation to Egypt to go, spend his honeymoon in the Great Pyramid or whatever goofy thing he wanted to do this week, British intelligence would pay him to come in and talk and interview him about what he saw in in this other country to get them ready for what was going on in the First World War. It's like there's no occultism to it. It's the guy traveled a lot and saw stuff because nobody took him seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So he was a good source of
Yeah.
information,
So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. The idea would be circulated again with World War II. Wait, maybe we can use him again.
right? But
And
that's
maybe we
wild that
did.
it was Ian Fleming suggesting it.
Yeah, that's the best part, is that it was Fleming.
Yeah.
And it's always funny just the way that so many weird people will connect. Like Sir Christopher Lee was actually related to Ian. I want to say Ian Fleming's godfather or something like that. They were actually like related, at least distantly related, and knew each other since they were both intelligence during the war.
Wait, who was related?
Christopher
Fleming and
Lee.
oh, Christopher Lee. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they did know each other. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
they
Christopher
did.
Lee
They,
and
they
Fleming.
they
Okay.
were related either by blood or by like godfather, godson, or both. I forget.
Yeah.
But they knew each other. And Lee was intelligence, and for that matter, interestingly enough, because there's always, I am grateful to all of the gods that may or may not exist that this is no longer a thing. But we talked about Lovecraft, and there has been speculation for many years of, was Lovecraft into the occult in any sense of the word, and the answer is no, no, he wasn't.
No.
He had friends who were, but like no, he had no, he was a devout atheist who had nothing but contempt for the idea of the paranormal. What is interesting, though, is that Lovecraft was living in New York at the same time that Crowley was living in New York.
Oh, that is
And we
interesting.
know that Lovecraft's wife at the time knew Crowley.
Okay.
So it's at least possible the two of them met at some point.
Oh, I did not know that about
Yeah, it's
Lovecraft's
this
wife. I
obscure
think was
thing.
Sonia
And
Green, right? And that she
yeah,
knew Crowley. Wow. Oh, that's wild. Yeah, but no, Lovecraft, I mean, his when you really dig into his work, it's far more science fiction
yeah, oh yeah.
leaning than mystical or supernatural. And I mean, there are definitely some supernatural stories in there, but The Color Out of Space is probably the best known of his firmly
And a
science
favorite story
fiction
of mine.
stories. It's a wonderful story. Yeah. Um,
Um,
I think Lovecraft had a lot of other hangups and fears and
oh God,
things
yeah.
that drove his horror. Yeah, and we
But
grapple
I
with those
know
today.
there's at least one story. I want to say it's the horror at Red Hook, that he actually went. We know from his letters, because we have many of his letters, and he wrote profusely to many other writers, that he actually did ask a friend of his who was very much into the occult and known to be into the occult for like an occult ritual, and he used it in the story. And what's
Uh,
funny is, yeah, it's a traditional. He uses it as a ritual to summon demons, but in reality, it's like a blessing ritual. It's like the exact opposite. Which is, it's a really good indication of how little interest he had in the actual occult.
yeah, yeah. He just wanted some stagecraft for the story, basically.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's try something new with one story because he did it once and he didn't do it again.
Right. Yeah, his weirdest, least science fictiony stuff are probably the Dreamland stories, where it's much more fantasy and much more. I want to
Weird and out
say,
there, and
yeah, influenced maybe by Lord Dunsany's work and things like that.
I think it was, and I think a lot of it was also influenced by Lovecraft's own nightmares,
Yes.
because he had a vivid imagination, but
Yeah.
he
Well,
also knew it was his imagination, not something. You know, for everything I know of Lovecraft, if he had stumbled across an actual Necronomicon, he probably would have published it to try and make money.
yeah. Why
It's
not?
like he wouldn't have like kept it away from the world to keep horrible occult truths. It's like no, he didn't believe that. He would have just tried to make money off, or or used it for his short stories and moved on. He wouldn't. But and there's funny things. There is actually, I want to say I've read once that he did actually reference Crowley briefly, which is probably not in one of his letters, not in one of his stories, which wasn't so much because he was like interested in what Crowley was doing, is because he basically called him something like a filthy degenerate and had no respect for what he was doing.
Yeah.
And it's but Crowley was famous enough at the time. Yeah, Lovecraft had heard of him, even if they had never met. But
Yeah.
lots of people had heard of him. He was famous for making himself a public spectacle.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
notorious more than anything, I think.
And he wanted, which is what he wanted. I mean, he called himself in the press, the great B666 and all this nonsense. He wanted to be infamous, and he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
But we have actually gotten over the hour, which is perfectly fine by me. But it's probably a good time to get wrapping up for the night.
All right.
And
Well, this is
thank
this
you
is
so
a
much.
fun discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I've had a really good time. Um, And I will say what I say to all of my guests, except the one psychic. You are welcome to come back at any time. Certainly, I'm thinking, if nothing else, it might be fun to have you back on after the book comes out
Sure.
to hopefully convince people to go buy a copy and to just talk about where things are there.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can talk, I'd love to talk some more about just the stuff that we're digging into. It's just fun. Like I really
Yeah.
enjoy uh
Always, you have my email, you have my Facebook. Feel free. If you have questions or you want to chat, I'm always around.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Kevin. I
My
really
pleasure,
appreciate it. Yeah, and thank you for the
sincerely.
support.
And I hope you said it's 83% of the way there.
It's 80, yeah, just about. I keep it open. I'm refreshing it every so often because I'm getting, edge of my seat
Yeah.
time here.
Folks, it's three
Oh,
days left. It sounds like a really cool book. Go toss some money to it. Get, I'm sure you've got like they get the hard you can get the hardcover through it. I'm sure they can get like paperbacks and things like that. So go
paperbacks,
get a
digital
copy of the book.
versions.
Support a great project.
Yeah, it comes with its own soundtrack,
That is very
digital
cool.
download of original music composed for the book, which is kind of wild.
You
So,
don't see that. I mean, you see plenty of books that have like suggested music to listen to while you read this, and I like that. Having stuff composed specifically with the book in mind is a very cool idea. And you
yeah.
include it, so folks, go check it out. I think it's worth the money, and I should be doing it myself. Close when I get paid on Tuesday, payday. Am I right?
Oh, yes.
But folks, I want to thank you for tuning in. I will have a link to the Kickstarter in the description. If it isn't there now, it'll be there in the next half an hour. Um, Please also remember to go check out my new channel, Woke History. We have 4 episodes up now, and I will be keep going, at least trying to do one episode a week about some part of Black history, women's history, LGBT history. One I know I definitely have coming up is going to be an episode of. Um, James, as many of our listeners probably know, a video game just came out called Ghosts of Yote, which is
Okay.
about a female samurai figure, and people have been complaining. That's ridiculous. How can a woman be a samurai? Like there were women samurai. I'm gonna do an episode about it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I love that's what I love this bringing the history forward. Like,
Yeah,
people think that the past was a certain way and it rarely was. There were
and the way
always,
it actually was is almost always so much more interesting.
yes.
But that's going to do it for tonight. We should be back next week. I don't have a guest scheduled yet. We are working on some folks. Brian has somebody we've been trying to get for a while. He just reconnected with that wants to come on. We'll see what happens. Keep an eye on the Facebook the Paranormal Encyclopedia. You got to put the in there because somebody already had Paranormal Encyclopedia when I made the page. But that'll do it for tonight. Thank you all for listening. Good night and God bless.